Hi everyone, it's Sophie from Solar Coach. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar on how to avoid the two biggest mistakes 95% of consumers make when they buy solar. Plus, we'll show you how you can save more than $60,000 in electricity costs in the process. Let me introduce our host for today, Michael D Russo. Michael is an expert in the field of solar energy education and is often asked to speak publicly on the pros and cons of the industry. He's a multi-published author, featured radio guest, and has a background in marketing and business. He initiated the Oprah and Oz Welcome campaign for Oprah Winfrey's visit to Australia in the last season of her hit show, which has nothing to do with solar, but was totally cool. He developed a Solar Coach education platform, which is an Australian first for the industry, and these days spends most of his time in training and development of his coaches, although he still likes to do the odd coaching call from time to time. Now I'll leave you in the very capable hands of Coach Michael.
Thanks, Sophie. Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm looking forward to talking with you. Let me start by addressing the reasons why most of you are likely to be here. First of all, you're obviously in the market for a shiny new solar system, but like most of our clients before they took the leap, you're probably a little, you're probably a lot confused, about how to go about it. I mean, there are so many confusing opinions, horror stories, and even bankruptcies in this industry that you're not alone in holding back your decision. And in all fairness, it's not your fault. When some of the biggest companies in the market run mass media, television and newspaper ads that go completely against the advertising standards of the industry, it's hardly fair to lay the blame of misinformation on the general public, is it? Perhaps you're here because you've already bought a system and you found, like most of the Australian public has over the last 5 or 6 years, that it's nowhere near adequate. Maybe it didn't live up to the expectations you were promised. This is a very common problem, and it's one that we deal with almost every week. And once again, it's not your fault. I want to tell you in advance that I understand the feelings of anger, frustration and betrayal that you may have. And I know you're very skeptical this time around. If you can simply bear with me for the duration of this program, I hope to be able to show you where you went wrong and possibly the best way to fix it. Now, if you're here to kick some tyres, see what we have to offer and, just get a better sense about the industry, look, that's fine too. One of the major benefits in going through our solar coaching program is that the system is free from hard sales. We respect your right to buy in your own time. However, when that time does come, we hope that you'll have enough confidence and education to make the right decision for you and your family. And hopefully, that decision will be with us. Now, I like to begin each event with a little overview of what I'm going to cover, so you know what you're in for. There are 9 key factors we're going to address, and as part of that, we should answer most of the questions you have about solar energy. We're going to talk about many of the misconceptions in the industry and what you need to do to get it done right. Firstly, we'll do a brief industry overview. Secondly, we'll address the most common mistakes that most people make about buying solar. Third, we'll talk about your real costs, and this is something that most solar companies never even touch on. Fourth, we'll walk you through our future-proofing model, which makes sure that your system will satisfy your needs for the next 2 or 3 decades, not just for the next few years. I'm also going to give you the exact formula used by industry insiders to work out what size system you need. And this is absolutely crucial because no one can pull the wool over your eyes after this. 6, we'll briefly go over the government rebates so you can understand how they work, although, they're significantly reduced these days. 7th, I'm going to explain to you the different types of products on the market and what you should be looking for. We'll also cover warranty options here as well. 8, we'll look at the best way to fund your solar system and why some options may be better than others. We'll also talk to you about a medical phenomena that affects almost every single person who buys a solar system. And finally, we'll cover the Solar Coach guarantees and income earning potential for you, our clients. Okay, I want to share with you my story, if I may. Now, Sophie was kind enough to share some highlights, but I want to talk with you specifically about my background in this particular industry. Now, I built my first multi-million-dollar business in my mid-20s, primarily based around property investing, and I later developed a small chain of retail stores. And after an initial success run for the first few years, we got caught while trying to expand the business too quickly, and it just happened to coincide with the global financial crisis. Look, I'll spare you the gory details, but I'll just say that it was a very rough time, including being homeless with my wife and 2 small children at the time, before eventually going bankrupt to the tune of about $3.5 million, so not a lot of fun. And during my recovery period, I really struggled to find work that could help move us forward again, and I lost a lot of confidence, besides suffering with major psychological issues, including clinical depression, among other things. Over this time frame, I had a number of inadequate jobs, and I got involved in businesses that, never ever left the ground. And it didn't seem to matter what I did, I just could not earn enough money to support the family, and it was really frustrating to say the least. Eventually, I found an ad in the newspaper looking for solar salespeople. And look, I wasn't a solar person, but I knew quite a bit about sales and marketing, and so after an extreme amount of reluctance and a lot of pushing from my wife, I applied, and I later accepted the position that they offered me. Now, I just want to explain my reluctance for a minute. I was a salesman and I was in desperate need of money, but I'd also never ever sold a product that was rubbish before. Before I had my own business, I'd always tried to work for companies that had good reputations, they offered good products, they worked hard for their clients, all that sort of stuff. And while we had them, I also tried to run my own companies the same way. But when it came to solar, all I ever heard about was horror stories. It seemed like every time I turned on the TV, there was another solar horror story on the news about people getting ripped off, jobs not being completed, shoddy installers, and on and on and on. Plus it seemed like everyone I knew that had a solar system seemed to have something bad to say about it. Now, it's really interesting because it's not like they didn't like solar. I mean, who's not excited about putting a few metal panels on the roof and giving the electricity companies the flick? I mean, my own bills at the time were creeping up towards $3,000 a year, and I hated it. It was never about solar energy itself. It was always about something associated with buying solar. Like the thing not being installed when they said, or people not showing up, or getting the wrong stock, or being told one thing and sold something else, pressure selling salespeople, not honouring the warranties, or, the worst one's probably putting the thing up and then only getting $50 or $60 a quarter back after spending thousands and thousands of dollars. My reluctance was that I didn't want to be associated with the sort of product that came with those kinds of problems. And, look, I'm sure most of you can understand how I feel about it. In fact, it's probably the same feeling that you have towards buying solar right now. So what I decided to do was some research into the industry and make sure the company I was working for was in the category of firms that got it more right than wrong. And unfortunately, they're very few and far between in the industry. I mean, I looked at the business model, I talked with the owner, I did my best to discover what the rubbish was and what was good quality in the marketplace. And fortunately for me, the company ticked many of those boxes, and I got a really good education and training in the industry.